Good afternoon. Welcome to Business This Week on ITV. I am Blessing AJ. Sincere apologies for coming way behind schedule. It was due to some circumstances beyond our control. And consequent in that is going to be an abridged version today on the show. But we're looking at something that concerns business people. Of course, this is business this week. Yes, since the CBN introduced a new lending rate and, of course, a new liquidity ratio, how is that impacting businesses today? I have Benedict Ochiago, who's a businessman, who will be talking about that today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Blessing.
Nice to have you on the show.
Yeah, it's a pleasure being here talking about what we do best.
Okay. All right. So the CBN in the last week of September made some adjustments and increased the lending rate to 15.50% and also increased the liquidity ratio in a bid to mop up cash and then just to reduce inflation. But that's seemed to have a downside, and it seems that downside is what affects the business people. You as a business person, I know that one source of funds for business people basically is commercial banks and maybe micro finance institutions, but banks basically. So in your experience, how has this new policy been impacting business?
Wow, even prior to this time, we have not been finding it easy. And let me quickly make something that is very, very easy. Sometimes the CBN or the bookmakers will have what they write and what they project, their projections and all of that. But in real sense, we have discovered on the business that the policies of the CBN and what is tenable on their papers are not what we face in reality.
Really?
For example, you are saying now that it has been increased to 15% interest rate, and but let me shock you, Blessing, by telling you that before now, I think the end of September, in one of the banks I deal with, the account officer drove to my house and gave me a paper to sign that interest rate on loan services has increased to 27%.
Way far from what
Yeah, I'm
we know.
talking to you about September. She drove to my house, and I was made to sign under compulsion. Because as a businessman, you always need money. And sometimes when you have the opportunity to get this money, they control the interest rate because they know you need it. And now the CBN is saying that they are trying to control inflation, which economically is not tenable. Because by the time you increase interest rates and you make access to funds difficult for us business people, one of the things that it culminates into is inflation. Because if I have to service the bank loan with a higher interest rate, then when I go out there to sell or to transact, I would definitely sell or transact on a higher rate. And that vis-a-vis is what leads to even a higher inflation. So all of this is, I think the CBN, for me, should look at, maybe they should look at how to monitor the banks. Because now, if you're looking at it, there's a big disparity between what the CBN is saying is the interest rate and what in reality we get as interest rate from the banks.
Well, maybe that could be as a result of some banks considering what they have available. If the liquidity ratio is raised at 32% and you just have very little cash available,
Yes.
so then the supply isn't as much as the demand. That again results in the increase. But how would you now think it should be? Should there be like a stiff rule? You must adhere to this, or there should be some concession for certain categories of business people?
Thank you so much, Blessing. The truth is that the CBN has not done a thorough job. You see, just like as it is across board, there's a great disconnect between those at the higher echelon and those at the floor. And that is what is causing economic woes in Nigeria, basically. Because the people that make things happen, the people that are victim of policies, everyday policies, are those at the lower cadre. And those people amount to, they are more than the people at the higher cadre. And so if policies are not being monitored to the everyday businessman out there. For example, if the CBN is saying it's 15%, and when you approach the bank, you are made to under compulsion sign that you are going to be paying 27%.
When you say under compulsion, how exactly do you mean?
Now, what I mean is under compulsion is that you need this cash, and now they are giving you this condition. You can't be telling them, okay, look, the CBN said 15%. If the CBN said 15%, then you should go to the CBN. Now, if it is not under compulsion, who do you now cry out to? Is the CBN readily available? Is there a channel readily available that you can complain to and get a feedback as quick as possible, and vis-a-vis getting to the banks as well to do the needful? Because like you are saying, the money in circulation now is tightened, and the people are scrambling for the few cash or the little amount of cash in the bank. Everybody wants, for example, it is a festive, we are approaching the festive season, and everybody needs cash, more money to do business. And so if everybody scrambles for the little cash, then definitely the banks, individual commercial bank, remember they are called commercial bank, they do business, individual commercial bank will take advantage of the policies, of the negative effect or the downside of the policies of the CBN, because this CBN does not have a present day-to-day task force that checkmate what the banks do to us, because we are the one feeling the effect vis-a-vis also our customers. And for example, those of us that do business that require higher amount of money almost on daily or weekly basis, we need cash, we need money. And so when I say under compulsion, you have to sign, because you need cash. You don't want to go, you don't want your business to suffer. You want to remain afloat. You want to remain in business. You want to compete. And so you have to sign. Even one of my business partners yesterday, we met at the bank, and he was telling me that the interest rate was too high, but he was signed because he needs the cash. So that is what we are talking about, that the CBN policy is telling, is the harsh reality of the policies is on us who are everyday business people, especially at the grassroots, locally, because we deal with these banks locally. And so when you are saying you have to increase the interest rate to reduce inflation, that's not tenable. It's not economically tenable.
If the interest rate at the commercial bank level remain at 15.50% as approved by the CBN, would it still be okay for business people?
Now, if it remains at 15 and it is well regulated that we remain there, then it will be fair a bit considering where we are right now. But also the banks has a way with which they also get their money that also make the thing very, very difficult. For example, the COT. For example, the COT in the bank, if I think...
When you say COT, I believe viewers want to know what COT.
Okay, and now when we're talking about the COT, you are talking about the charge on transaction. You understand? On every transaction you make. Now, at the end of the month, I think at the end of September, both the COT I paid for bank was about 30,000 naira. And then when you're talking about COT, just only one person paying, even at my level, paying 30,000 naira, you will not know.
Depending on how much loan.
We are not even talking about loan now. We are talking about every transaction you make, the debits that accrue to it cumulatively. This is just for, then sometimes there are a lot of other little things that people don't even account for. So the banks, to be very honest with you, the CBN, there's a disconnect between the CBN policy and also you could also understand, because the bank needs to survive. And so the bank comes up with a lot of things. They debit you on this. You make any move, they debit you, and all of that. And then now, when you want to do bank charges, at the end of the day, for example, I think by September I paid over 100,000 naira, both for interest and and the COT, and over 100,000 naira. Then you are now looking at how much do you make in a month. You understand? Vis-a-vis the policies of the CBN saying that they want to reduce interest rate.
Does that now increase? Does that not increase the chances of defaults on loan repayments?
Of course. That is another thing. That's another area where banks doesn't look at. Because, for example, if you give me a loan or facilities on an exorbitant interest rate, I have to work with this money. And then I am under pressure both to recoup your money and also make profit. because I need to survive as an individual, and my business as well needs to survive. And so by the time the interest rate is exorbitant, then there is a conflict here, financial conflict, because no businessman wants to lose. And so the natural way a businessman thinks sometimes is that for me to lose, then if it comes to worse, instead of my business to liquidate or to crumble, I need to be at the mercy of the bank. Maybe I'll need to tell them that I cannot repay this loan now, and then we'll keep pushing. And I have record on bank where they say this one has not met up with this one has not met up with. But so in overall, of course, the truth is that is a natural tendency with some people to default anyway. It's not because of the interest rate, but what we're trying to say that the interest rate can affect the returns, because as a businessman, if you don't have enough, because remember that this money is going into circulation every day, and if the returns does not come out in such a way that you have profit, it means you are not doing anything. And if you are not doing anything, how do you repay the loan?
So in all, what do you think would be the solution to this, apart from having a task force to monitor banks' compliance with CBN approved interest rates? What else can be done?
Now, we need to look at, for example, the CBN under this 50. I would still like to narrow it to monitoring your policies. Are you getting it? Then not just monitoring the policies, at the point of making the policies, who are the people that makes these policies? Because you are saying, the CBN is saying now that, look, we are trying to increase the interest rate in order to reduce inflation. But it appears to me that they didn't take into cognizance the fact that in overall, in the long run, this will actually increase the inflation rate. Because if you make policies that are harsh, because it will help you within in the short run, what about in the long run? What about when it is broken down to the floor, to the basics, where you meet a lot of people transacting and doing business? So what I want to say here in terms of solution, from the point of policy making, people should be carried along. It appears that what is happening in the political sphere has also affected a normal economic sphere that is not supposed to be so, that is supposed to be grassroots minded. For example, if you are making policy, you have to ask questions. When these policies is downsized and downstreamed to the common man, the way they say it on the street today, what will be the impact? That is the point. And then again, I will also say that you have to set up a mechanism to monitor whether there is compliance, and to monitor if there is no compliance. Why are they not compliant? Do we need to revisit this policy? So
perhaps have a review.
Yeah, to have a review, revisiting and having a review, so that we have a level playground. Because these banks also needs to survive, like I said earlier.
They're also in business.
They're also in business. And we also in business also needs to survive. Because in Nigeria, for example, now, there's a whole lot we are combating with. There's a whole lot of pressure on us. For example, you need to keep afloat. You need to pay bills. You need a whole lot of things. You need to pay. You pay taxes and the whole lot. So there's already too much on Nigeria, and I don't really think that when there is problem in the country, that the common man should be the one bearing the brunt alone.
Thank you very much, Benedict Ochagu, for the discussion. We'll take a break, and when we return, we're looking at the 2023 budget, its impact on the economy, as well as a bit on the foreign scene. Stay tuned.